All right, we got a couple minutes before we bring in DeQuell.
No, we got
really get
DQ.
offended
DQ,
by
yeah.
one
Let's bring him in.
question?
We'll do the thing after.
Okay.
Respond to him that I think he's a loser for that comment.
DQ, what's up, my man?
What's up, fellas?
Hey, DQ, you know that the Ohio State women play Maryland soon, and basketball-wise, I'm willing to say that they're gonna take y'all down this time. You
Well,
tell
how
and
much
tell
are you
tell
willing-
tell
We can talk offline. How much
Brad,
are you willing
can
to
tell
back them
Brad
against
that
Maryland?
his daughter's going down.
I think either.
Wow.
I think.
Listen,
by the way,
listen,
I think either team could beat the men's team at Ohio State
That's
right
a
now.
fact.
That may be a fact. That may be a fact. But hey, I'm worried about Bull and G because I heard you had a little sniffle, so I went and got some simple saline for you and some.
You know what?
My son's
You know,
probiotic.
well, I'm glad. Guess what?
It helps him score.
He's going
Wait
to
a
get
minute.
us sick.
Wait a minute.
Well, he's going to get us sick. It's
DQ,
unbelievable.
I appreciate your level of concern, but I want to let you in on a little secret that I learned myself. They got this stuff. They got this stuff called topics now, so you don't gotta be bald. You can just get the topics, put it in your head, and your wife would think that you're 21 again.
But you think I don't need any more hair? I'm good. I'm married. I'm locked in, baby. I'm good.
Same, but I'm not letting it go. I'm not letting it go.
well, take that hat off. Let's see.
What
Hey,
about
G,
it?
take his hat off.
What about it?
Okay.
Or if you have to look down to show your hairline, that's not good.
I'm not showing the hairline.
You didn't bring it. You didn't put topics in there
Well,
today.
Tyvus
did
is
you?
married
Shout out to
too,
your
though.
barber, man.
Shout out to your barber.
Look at that.
Hey, McNugget, see what you started? You started
Hey,
this,
hey,
McNugget.
I got a barber. I got a barber for you in Cleveland.
No, we
JT.
good. I'm good.
Okay.
Well,
all right.
you want to first? Do you know your butcher personally? Do you know your butcher?
My butcher.
Yeah.
You know what? I just got a butcher this past year. Yes, I do.
See?
Yes, I do.
See,
Yes, I
DeQuell
do.
knows his butcher.
Bull actually on
Yeah,
this show
yeah.
gave a shout out to his butcher.
I did not really my
Yeah, he
butcher,
did.
but
Yeah,
the
he did.
person who cut people who cut my cold cuts at the deli. There.
Yeah, the good steaks, the salmon, the fish, all that. You have to be in good graces with
See,
the people that
DeQuell's
feed
a man of the people, just like me. It's
But
very
he-
simple.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
he didn't name drop him, DeQuell. He was like, shout out to I like my meat cut a certain way. Not that thick stuff. Those are for losers. Losers only get cut
No,
meat.
he goes. Losers only eat roast beef that's not rare.
Right.
You gotta eat. Does anybody here eat roast beef or like
I
any
do.
I
meat
eat
that's
roast
not
beef.
rare?
How you know?
No, you got it. No, who's eating well done roast beef? It's
No,
always
no,
there.
I didn't say well done, bro.
Yeah, right. But that's what I'm saying. People, if you eat well done meat, roast beef, any kind of steak, that's
Yeah,
disgusting.
that is disgusting.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
all
just
I'm
throw a
saying.
hockey puck on the grill and eat
Awful.
that. You cook the flavor right out of it when you
My
cook
wife,
it that
for
long.
one birthday a few years ago, my wife was making prime rib for dinner, right?
Yeah.
And I like
Okay.
especially prime rib. That's got to be rare, super rare.
I'm with you.
And one of my friends was over for dinner. I love him, greatest guy. But he's like, "Can you make one of them for me, well done?" I was
You kick him out.
well done. And of all the meats, prime rib is like the last one. I wouldn't eat any meat well done. But prime rib,
Did you make it for?
we did because he's a good friend.
Wow.
Well, so I have
He's
I
like a
have a
brother
niece.
almost, really.
So I have a niece that goes to school at Howard, and
Yeah.
you know, she maybe two years ago, we would take her out to dinner, and we try to fine dine her and show her some different places to eat because we love to eat, and we had the same situation, Bull. We go to this Michelin star place. She orders a steak, and she says, "Well done." And I had to excuse the waiter for a second because I didn't want to embarrass my niece. I'm like, because you're not paying for this, let's try something a little different. So and she wouldn't budge. She wouldn't budge. I'm like, let's try something else. Let's not waste
Medium
$8.5
well.
well done piece of meat that I'm gonna have to pay for. Let's try something different. But
She
people
wasn't
eat
having it.
what they love.
Yeah, I mean, you throw,
Kids today.
know.
By the way, DeQuell, how tall is your son? Because he seems
that's
really
a good question.
tall.
He's like in the probably 90 percentile
No,
in
he's
terms
big.
of height right now.
Wow.
How
But
old?
he's big,
Same as
man.
my dog.
How old is he?
He's 4. He'll be 5 in November.
Yeah, because we were looking yesterday because Aditi was on yesterday, and we were looking at that picture of Aditi. I think was
yeah.
holding
it
him,
was, yeah.
and it was like he was almost as big as she was. I know she's really tiny, but like
Yeah.
he was like as big as she was. It seemed like.
No. Before she picked him up, I'm like, listen, be careful. He's solid. So he's a good probably 45 pounds right now. We weigh each other every now and again, but he's a dense kid. He's probably a head taller than all of his classmates right now.
Wow.
But
Does
He's
he
got
need
some
an
aunts
agent?
that are 6'3", 6'4".
Does he
You
need
know,
an
Christina
agent?
comes from a tall family. She's 5'9". You know, so her mother's tall.
Yeah.
So you know, hopefully he gets. I don't want to be taller than me because then we might have an issue.
Look,
You know, I'm gonna have to.
See, I want my son to be taller than me. I want him to be like 6 feet.
you don't want his son being taller. It's a different couple genes
Yeah.
in there. DeQuell might be getting.
Was your
getting
wife
roughed
an
up.
athlete too?
Oh, absolutely not. No,
Oh, no?
not at all.
Wow.
She stumbles over her own feet. No,
That's
she's
okay
not.
though, DeQuell, because my wife is 5'11" and zero athleticism. I'm telling you, she
Yeah.
can't vertical a phone book rather, a phone book. But she did contribute to Corey's height because I'm about 6'1.5". Corey's like 6'2", and I think he got that extra jolt from Tracy.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
5'11" is
he's
very tall
definitely
for a
gonna get the
woman.
Very
brains from
tall.
her. Sure.
DeQuell, we were sitting here having a conversation, and G. Bush brought up the fact that the Browns don't have any. What you say? They don't draft, develop.
They've never drafted, developed, or put on the field a superstar wide receiver.
Who did you play with at wide receiver, and was they of that magnitude?
So Braylon was there, but we all know that was he ascended very quickly, and then things just kind of.
I see. I threw his name out there.
But I would also say, and I heard the segment you guys talking about it, I would actually throw. I mean, would you consider him a receiver? But I would say Josh Cribbs. He was the guy who did it all. I mean, he was
but he
here
wasn't-
forever.
Well,
He was a great player, but he wasn't a great receiver.
Yeah, I would count him as
Yeah.
a player.
he just did everything.
Yeah, in my tenure, I can't think of one other than Braylon and Kellen Winslow. If you want to
Right.
throw him in the mix.
can you count?
But they
those?
didn't sustain those guys. They had the talent.
No,
obviously.
Joe Vicious was there,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like a homegrown drafted, a guy who was homegrown. You always had to go out and get him out of free agency.
By the way, we got some breaking news. One of DeQuell's teammates is going to be
Bubba?
one of your former teammates. Who?
He
I was
played
gonna
with
say,
Bubba
did
Ventrone too.
Ventrone get
Oh no,
the-
but we'll get to him in a second. But one of your former teammates is going to be joining us for the first time ever on the show Monday. He went to the Pro Bowl twice.
Should have been more than that.
He was a great Browns player for a very long time.
No, he's a legend. Is what he
Joe
is.
Hayden?
Joe Hayden.
No.
Joe Hayden.
No, we haven't had Joe yet. We got to get
Wow.
Joe Hayden on,
He's a
but not Joe.
This guy's a legend. we haven't had nobody replace him yet.
I could, in my prime, I could have probably beaten him up.
Phil Dawson.
Yes,
Phil Dawson.
Phil
Nah, I don't
Dawson.
think-
Phil Dawson.
Phil Dawson's
Oh
coming up.
man, I have a framed jersey of Phil Dawson in the room next to me, and his cleats when he became like the all-time
Wow.
scoring champion.
That's nice.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
He gave
Oh,
it.
yeah.
He
Oh,
gave it to
That's
you.
Hall of Fame style.
Well, I asked for. I always respected kickers, Tybus. Unlike you, I respected everyone on my team.
So wait a minute. I'll let you know that I had the best relationship
Adam
with
Vinatieri.
every kicker that I've ever had, except for maybe one in college.
Do you got some cleats?
No.
Do you
got
have
cleats.
cleats?
I
have
didn't ask him
footballs.
for- I didn't ask
cleats,
him for
I have
The
framed
only-
jerseys
the-
of kickers
The only
in
kicker,
my house right now.
The only kickers cleats that I would have ever asked for was either Robbie Gold's or Adam Vinatieri's. That's the only two.
Let me show you something really quick. Hold on.
All right, stand by.
Robbie Gould.
Do we have
Good
elevator
as
music?
gold.
Hey man, I really feel like when you
Look at this
And
man.
this wasn't planned.
Look at this.
This was not planned. What did I say?
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
Adam
Yeah.
Vinatieri.
That's pretty sweet.
I mean, y'all
He
were
gave
team.
me this.
Yeah.
That is
I asked
awesome.
him.
That's sweet.
Tyus, what you got?
I respect my teammates, Tybus.
I'm glad you do. So listen, as long as we're talking special teams.
What is wrong with him?
You're
Why
flawed.
are you in so much competition
You're
with
flawed.
me?
You're
Oh, I
flawed.
know the next line, but we're not allowed to say it.
flawed
But we're not-
I'm flawed. Name me your special teams coordinators.
Oh no, I didn't like my special.
See
teams
that?
coordinators. I'm not-
Flawed.
Well, he didn't play
Flawed.
special
Wasn't it Tabor?
Flawed.
Was it
So
Tabor?
what?
Wasn't it Tabor here?
Tabor, I like Tabor,
Don't
but
give
the
him
one
no
before him,
hints.
Jerry Rossberg. Jerry Rossberg.
I know mine.
Me and that guy, we never saw eye to eye. He said some disrespectful things to me out of his mouth as a rookie, and I tell you what, it took 3 or 4 guys to hold me back because at that moment I needed some boxing gloves. We were gonna go after.
Wow.
And from that moment, he respected me, and we kept it cordial. Like, listen, keep it football. It's all good, but when you start to dive into my personal life and all this other crap,
Gee,
I got a problem.
Man.
Oh, Jerry was brutal, man. He was brutal.
Did the Browns make the right move in moving on from Preifer? And you know well Ventrone. Now, we're putting the cart before the horse. He doesn't have the job yet. There's another candidate. The Giants' assistant special teams coach is a candidate. But tell us your thoughts on the move and how they should proceed going forward.
Yeah, I don't understand what took it so long.
Yeah.
I don't understand what move was made recently that you didn't already know when the season was over. I just don't understand the timing of it all. But in the end, he's gone. And I think Bubba, as you see on the screen, Bubba, he was probably outside of Pat McAfee, he's probably Josh Cribbs, he's probably the best special teams player I ever played with. The guy was tough, strong, physical. He was great in every phase, punt return, punt team, kickoff return, kickoff. He taught me a lot of what I needed to do on kickoff return when I was a young boy, young pup playing in the league. So he's always had a ton of respect from all of us. And Joe Hayden, I know he loves Bubba, and he went on. I mean, it's no surprise that he's in the position he's in right now, and to have a homegrown guy, a guy who's familiar with Cleveland, come back, have a chance to coach this team. I'm quite sure he's going to reach out to Josh Cribbs, because those two, they had a connection when we played. We had some of the best special teams units in the league on a 4-12 team. So I think this is definitely a great, if he's able to get the job, I think it'll be a great hire, because Bubba means a lot to the city, and he's just a great guy in all.
Are you saying you think he might try to get Josh to be his assistant?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
That'd be cool.
I would not be surprised if he would reach out, if he were to get the job.
Josh has dabbled in it. Josh did an internship with the Browns a couple of years ago, and I had spoken with him about it afterwards when he decided to move on. But I think Josh had a tweet around the college football all-star season where he may have been a special teams coach for one of those college all-star games.
Oh, really?
He was.
Okay, yeah.
It was the NFLPA.
And
I coached it in a couple years.
The NFL, you're right. And when I saw that, I thought maybe he wants to get back in it.
When you coached, how was the linebackers? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, we had fun, man. We had fun. And actually, one of the guys played for the Browns.
Really? What was that? What was his name?
I can't. His name is slipping my mind right now, but I have his name in my phone. Hey, don't do this, Ty. Don't do this.
I just asked the question. I'm just asking a question. That's all.
Right,
listen, my linebacker crew, I still keep in touch with a bunch of them. So I didn't just, once I left them, I didn't just drop them to the side, because once we create that bond, it's forever. But I can't think of his name right now.
Well, I'm curious. Do you, when you were a player, did it matter to you whether or not the coach actually played in the NFL? Did that factor in? I mean, I know there's some good coaches who didn't, but did it mean, especially when you initially met the guy, maybe, did it mean more? Did he have a more benefit of the doubt if he played?
At the end of the day, does it help? Does it give you instant credibility? Yes, but did it matter? What mattered to me was, do you know the game? Do I think I can get better by listening to you?
Right.
Yeah.
If I didn't think you could help my career and you teach me something, I learned something, how to play the position a little bit better, then I didn't care who you were, man, woman, whatever. If you can get me better and get me paid, I'm all ears. And I've been around other guys who, had all the credentials in the world, and we didn't click. And I'm the easiest person to, listen, I want to play well. I want to do all the things right. But I think in some cases, if you have a young team and if you're devoid of talent, or not talent, but leadership in certain places, like the Browns, for instance, you need a guy who can capture the ear of these players right away to get your message through. Because, listen, a lot of young players want to do well, but if they're not led correctly, then what do you really have? You have a collection of talent that is headed nowhere. So it's a segue into Jim Schwartz. I think that's why they went and got a guy like him on the heels of Woods being fired. You need a guy who understands players, who understands the psyche of a player and how to motivate them. And I think this is what this team needed defensively, because you have a collection of talent and you don't have a sole outspoken leader in that locker room.
DeQuell, I'm gonna ask you a question. This is a money question too, man. This is kind of philosophical. I just thought about it when Bull said something. Do you believe there will be the first, which will happen first, the first minority black-owned NFL team, or the first woman head coach?
Head coach?
Wow. And do you think, and even when the first woman head coach, Do you think that's possible? And if so, what year?
That's a great question. What will come first? I think ownership will probably come first.
Yeah, I think we're close to minority owner.
I think we really are.
Yeah, we're close
Yeah.
there.
What about majority owner though? How about
No.
switch that?
I was scared with Trotter because you gotta have when you said now Jay-Z got money. Don't get me twisted, but when you say you have to have $1 billion in cash
To
Yeah.
put down.
There's
to
not a
put
lot of-
down,
Well, I
They-
looked into
they ain't
Jay-Z.
got that.
Jay-Z's net
Well,
worth
well,
is
right.
exactly 30% of the average cost of an NFL team right now. So I would wipe him
Yeah,
out.
like I would say right now is probably the most. Right now, as a culture, Black people have the most money we've ever accumulated, right? And you have to think, hell, my grandparents' grandparents were on the field, so we're not too far removed from having generational money. So right now is the most money we've ever been able to accumulate. So I do think it'll happen before we see a woman head coach, and I do think that is possible. I do think that is around the corner because the Browns, for instance, they have an assistant GM who's a woman and that's climbing up the ranks. And with the Browns, for instance, they don't get a lot of credit for having a lot of, Black and brown people work for this organization. They've done it for many, many years. And I think we don't talk enough about it. So, it's an interesting question. It's a great question to bring up, but I think there will be probably a majority Black owner before we see a woman head coach, in my opinion, right now.
I agree with that. It is, obviously there's been prejudice against women in sports. There's no reason in theory that what's the difference between a woman who obviously hasn't played in the NFL and a man who hasn't played in the NFL being a coach? There really should be no difference. It's all about how much you work. The problem is men are chauvinistic, not all men, but men are chauvinistic, and getting over that, there'll always be some guys that will have a bad attitude about it. I do think we're going to see a woman head coach in the NBA in the next decade.
Oh, for
no
sure.
question.
No
I think
doubt.
that's happening.
No doubt.
You're right.
And there's
No
a
doubt.
GM in baseball. The GM of the Marlins is a woman.
I think when Pop leaves San Antonio, they're going to hire a woman.
What's
Becky Hammons.
Becky Hammons.
Ain't she
should.
with the Aces now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're kicking
And
ass.
she makes $1 million a year, which, as of when she signed, was the next highest coach salary in the WNBA was $250,000.
I think
Well, that-
you
that
would have
whole
to wait
market is
50.
kinda-
You have to wait 50 years.
By the way, we're all
60
going
years.
I'm going to get a bunch of tweets saying that we're all too woke by saying a woman should be a head coach in the NFL. We're going to get accused of
Here's the
being
thing. I'm not
too
saying
woke.
I would never say that a woman
Especially
should
in
be a head
today's
coach in the
climate.
NFL. I would never say that a woman should be a head coach in the NFL. Here's what I would say: if there is a woman who is among the most 32 qualified to be a head coach in the NFL, then she should be a head coach.
Agreed.
But I'm not going to say, well, we got to do it because she's a woman.
Agreed, Jay. But we all say that. We all say the same thing about Black coaches. As long as they're one of the third. In a perfect Nirvana world, the 32 best people for the jobs would get the jobs.
You're right.
But it doesn't work that way.
No, it does not. As
It
we've
never
seen.
works that way.
But yeah, to say that a woman should be a head coach in the NFL.
No, nobody. I don't think anybody's saying that. But I
No.
think.
No, you
there's-
said that we're going to get grief because you said a woman should be a head coach in the NFL. And I don't think that's what we're saying.
No, but there's just the fact that we're talking about it. There'll be
Yeah.
some people complaining.
Well, listen, it's
But-
coming. The Browns have
Right.
Kelly. She's the assistant wide receiver coach, or is she the wide receiver coach?
Assistant.
She assistant. 'Cause
Yeah.
She's the
Chad
assistant wide
O'Shea
receiver.
So she's not the head wide receiver coach,
no.
but she's in the
And
room.
Jay, I'll add this point, and especially in today's climate of football. Yeah, when I entered the league, if you asked me that same question, I would have gone a completely different route. Now the woman is just a different climate. Now the
Right.
climate in the locker room has changed and it's more open and progressive. So yeah, I do think at some point, and I agree with you. We're not saying that a woman should, but the best 32
Right.
candidates should be hired. And we can go back and forth about the debate about Black coaches as well. And I'll say this about that point: I think we get so caught up in having the imagery is important, right? But I think a lot of people have to realize it shouldn't take a Black person to hire another Black person.
No, it should not.
It's got to be all inclusive. So I just wanted to drop that one point home in
On
terms of the coaches or what have you.
On that point, DeQuell, I'm curious your answer, Tyvis, to this as well. As a player, was it talked about in the locker room? Like, was it open conversation about how black coaches were not getting the same opportunities in general
Yes.
as white coaches? Is that something that's talked about?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Because we all know a lot of guys who we played with who we knew if they decided to pursue coaching, they were going to be really great coaches. But again, it's hard to break into that fraternity of that coaching cycle. And unfortunately, it's still work in progress. And yeah, it was definitely a topic of conversation when, there's millions of guys who played this, a lot of guys who played this game at a high level that can go coach. And, for whatever reason, they don't decide to pursue it.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think society is always a little more progressive in terms of what we think is possible. But when you got 32 teams and that's the elite fraternity, like sometimes we're a little naive. Like you got to realize that they talk to each other and they say, "Hey, listen, that's nice. We want to say that, but let's be real. That's not gonna happen." And that's just the reality of the situation. It's like that in corporate America. Once you get to the elite of the elite, you gotta be ushered in. They gotta wrap their arms around you, and you have to think if there was a woman that was a coach, that would move the earth. That would shake. We don't shake some stuff up. Like they're just now getting around to being comfortable saying we're gonna have an African American coach, right? But when you talk about moving and it changes the perception of what you even think about the league, right? You would actually have to change the way that certain people think at a fundamental level for them to even accept it.
Right.
And it's not the people, the fans.
Yeah.
It's ownership.
Because I guarantee you there are a lot of men out there. When I made the statement that in theory, what's the difference between a woman being a coach and a man who didn't play? Obviously, guys who played, there's been no women that have played in the NFL, obviously. But a man who did not play professionally and a woman, what's the difference?
Well, the difference, I think the difference is, like you could say, well, okay, Bill Belichick. Well, Bill Belichick played collegiate football. All these guys played collegiate football at a pretty high level. Even
did they all?
Well,
they all played collegiate, but they
and a lot of them played in their Ivy leagues and were all conference. So but now
so what's
the woman's league?
Yes.
Now,
so
if you're talking about somebody that's never ever played the game of football, but that's a coach,
you'll have pushback on that, whether man or woman.
At the highest level, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
But what's the difference? Like, they didn't all play
right.
at high levels. Some of them played D3. Some of them played.
They still played though.
Yeah, you played. If you played at D3, you're a good player.
If you tell me a guy off the street who never played the game ever,
no,
that's pushback.
But a lot of the women but all the women that are going into coaching now played some level of football. There's women's professional leagues.
Honestly, there's not a lot of women that are going into coaching.
No, there aren't. But the few that are have played.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
It's fascinating to me. I would even say, just the sight of seeing a woman with the call sheet, like making those crucial plays.
I think that would happen.
In the crunch time. Like, because to me, if there was anything more, I guess, inspirational, or there's anything more that I would think about and be like, wow, you could be, because we tell people you could be anything in this world. You could be anything you want to be. They was lying back in the 70s and 80s when they came up. You cannot be anything you want to be.
And in truth, that's still a lie now.
That's still a lie.
Like, I love LeBron James, but when LeBron James goes to his school in Akron and tells the kids, you can do what I've done. No, you can't.
No.
You can't. That's not the truth.
It's not for everybody.
LeBron was 6'8", 260, built like a locomotive with unbelievable God-given talent.
And an unbelievable work ethic.
And he had the perfect package.
Yeah.
So I'm always careful not to use that phrase because I can look around the average fourth grade class and I can tell you a lot of those kids aren't going to be pro athletes.
Well,
so
you can do most things, not everything.
Within reason.
Yeah.
Now there are physical limitations that people will have.
Yeah.
I can't be no fire pilot. You can't be
a race car driver.
I can't go to NASA. I can't just fly rocket ships.
Why can't you?
I'm too big.
Physical limitations.
Well,
they
but
have
when you were
size
a
requirements.
kid, that might not have been the case.
Well,
it's a size.
Well, he was this size in the 6th grade.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, probably just big. But here's the thing. I will say this. I will say that I think it will be closer. It's closer to basketball. I think basketball is a different sport. Football is, I guess, is something where I mean, it's just the politics of football are different. Basketball, good shot. Basketball, though, women have been playing basketball. The game is still the same.
That's why
Right.
we'll see
You
a
can
woman
shoot.
head coach in the NBA.
You can pass, you can dribble. It's the same game.
Yep,
right?
it is the same game. And I think we will see a woman head coach in the NBA.
And by the way, what's her name? Mendoza, right?
Jess Mendoza.
She covers baseball. And the first time I heard it, I was like, "Oh, this is new." And then you realize, no, it's the same game.
The
pretty
Cubs
much.
have the Cubs in their minor system have a woman pitching coach.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Now, that's interesting.
That
Minor
is.
system, yeah.
Very
Tyvus
interesting.
raising his hand.
Oh no, that's
No, he's holding his pose
you
because
remember
he made a water bottle shot.
You remember
in
on
the
Love
trash
and
can.
Basketball
God.
when Monica hit her shot and she just posed? That's where I'm at.
I thought you were doing the Wesley Snipes in White Man
Oh
Can't
yeah,
Jump.
it's pretty. It's so pretty. Well, Jay missed and I just all netted mine. So
Well,
I
Jay, that sounded
take a
terrible.
Well,
picture.
that proves he's a better water bottle shooter than me, for sure.
ATL.
You know that was a game. So I was gonna say that was a game in training camp, Jay.
Yeah.
Oh man, you can win and lose a lot of money shooting balls of tape
Yeah,
or
balls of
anything at the
tape.
trash can.
Balls of
I
tape.
won
Did you
plenty
guys-
$20 bills playing that game. Trust
The
me.
Bucks always used to do this game where they would get on the 20-yard line and try to throw footballs into the trash can that were in the end zone. And I'll tell you
definitely
who's
done
best at it out of everybody
Brad
was Warren
Jones.
Sapp.
Warren
Sapp was sick at that.
Yo,
He looks like a dead man.
they don't do that. Not what they do is they do the stand at the 50 and try to hit the crossbar.
Upright. Yeah, the crossbar.
Man.
Yeah, that's tough.
Woo!
to do now. Yeah.
Hey, I didn't know how hard it was till I tried it. We be out there
So you
fighting.
lost your money?
No, I didn't bet no. And see, I'm not going up against the quarterbacks. I'm not doing that. That's
That's
dumb.
silly. Yeah, that's silly. Oh my goodness.
Hey, listen.
I heard you guys.
I got a
go
question
for
for you before we let you go. We've been talking a lot about the draft, and
That's where I was-
we're trying to figure out here how to best go about it. They need D tackle, they need wide receiver, they also need some linebackers and some other things. But I think the two big areas of needs: wide receiver and defensive tackle. There's three ways to acquire talent. You can do it through trade, you can do it through free agency, you can do it through the draft. How should the Browns come into this draft? Is D tackle their biggest area of need, and do they try to attack that in the draft? And how should they go about wide receiver?
Yeah, I think wide receiver wise, I mean, we got free agency coming up, and I think unless you have I don't think they can find a difference maker at the receiver position at picking at the 43rd position. Not to say you can't, but I think right now in today's NFL, you can find receivers through free agency. I think that's the best route, and find someone you have to find someone. If you committed $230 million guaranteed to Deshaun Watson, he needs help. You look around this summer, who's everyone talking about? Lamar Jackson. Will he sign or won't he sign? And the weapons that he has. So you have to be able to get this guy some weapons. But again, the D tackle position, man, it's a toss-up. I mean, you look at last year's draft where there was an assertive effort to get D tackle help, and between Perion Winfrey and I forget the other guy's name, but they haven't shown up. So listen, is it a focal point? Yeah, I think in the draft you have to find. It's hard to find D tackles in free agency because those guys do not leave their organizations. If you have a Dominic, I can't even say his name.
Dominic Sue.
Dominic Sue, yes, or an Aaron Donald. Those guys don't leave the building, so you have to, find these guys in the draft, which we don't have a good track record of doing. But at this point, you have to take defensively. I'm gonna put a lot of weight on Jim Schwartz. I think the reason they went out and got this guy, they have some pieces they don't want to give up on. And how do we get these guys to play together, to play fast, to play smart, and who can galvanize these guys and light a fire up under their butt? Because I think last year a lot of these draft picks defensively, the D tackle position, it was a waste. We didn't see it was a waste. All we know was Myles Garrett able to rush off the edge, and in the interior there was nothing, and the line, and then so forth and so all the holes throughout this defense. So I think listen, with a second, third, or fourth round pick, 2 fourth-round picks, Andrew Berry has to get it right, and at the very least he has to find some difference makers in the draft, because right now, free agency is your best route to help this offense.
we say it's a prove-it year for Stefanski. It's a prove-it year for Andrew Berry, too, and he's got to make some moves that strengthens those areas of need.
By the way, I'm sure DeQuell knows this because he did it, but I don't think we've ever talked about this on the show. I want to see if these guys know the answer. DeQuell had 1 pick 6 as a member of the Browns. Who was the quarterback he picked off for that pick 6?
Tom Brady.
Oh, I definitely know this. No.
Yeah, I figured you did. It is not Tom Brady.
Peyton Manning.
It is not Peyton Manning.
No.
Carson
No.
Palmer.
Drew
I'll give you a
Brees.
clue. He was a lefty.
Oh, wow.
He was
Michael Vick.
Mark Brunell.
Michael Vick?
Mike got it. Michael Vick.
Michael Vick.
Did
And
he
you talk
telegraph
about
it?
coaching. Oh, yeah. You talk about coaching. Billy Davis, who you've heard me talk about on this show, he was with the Arizona Cardinals. He was another guy who didn't play at the highest level, but he was one of the smartest coaches ever been around. He knew coverages. And all week long, we would cover 2 defense. He would tell me, listen, 5-step drop. If it's play action, he's throwing the ball, 2 yards outside of the hash, just run 12 to 15 yards down, 2.5 yards outside of the hash, he will throw it right to you. And every day in practice, I screwed it up. I'm like, this is not going to happen. Because in practice, they threw it right to me, no matter what. And I'm sure he paid the quarterback to throw it to me. And sure enough, the game happens. The same, I have a glimpse of, okay, this is the play that, that he's going to play action. There's a deep comeback. And literally, I did exactly what he said. Caught it, intercepted it, did a flip in the end zone, hurt my ass, and then I ran to the side. And it was good joy. Good joy. Man.
You shouldn't be doing that. Leave that to the
Yeah,
DBs.
no, that was the last time I ever flipped. What would make me do a front flip? And I didn't land it. I landed on my ass. Man.
Yeah, you scored a touchdown, man. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
DeQuell Jackson, thanks, brother.
Thanks,
See you
DeQuell.
next
See you
week.
next week.
I'm
buddy.
going to send you a few of these, man.
And I'm
Help you with
going
that.
to send you some topics, so don't worry. We got a nice exchange going.
Oh,
I used to be my
man.
beard.
There you go.
See you, DQ.
Oh,
Thanks,
man.
DQ. That